Today we're at Creekside Farms in New Tecumseh, the home of George and Sharon Overton. The Overtons have been producing honey in this area for the last 30 years, and they produce about 30 tons of honey per year. Wow, that's a lot for a local producer. Well, George was looking for a honey of a motorcycle, and 40 years ago he found one, a 1940 Indian Chief. So today, in search of the ultimate two-wheel classic, is very happy to bring you the story of this special motorcycle. So George, you know, we're just pleased as punch to be here today for you to be able to show us your beautiful Indian Chief here. And it's basically original from what I understand, and it's a 1940 1200?
That's right.
So give us a bit of the background of the story. How did you come by it, and when did you come by it?
I started assembling the bike basically back in 1970, and I acquired parts through the years and to try to make it original as I could, and it's taken me quite a few years now to get it.
So basically it was a bit of a basket case then. So there were parts missing and probably not operating. It had probably been sitting around for some time. I imagine 1940, I imagine.
That's right. The motor had to be rebuilt, and I don't think there's a part on it that hasn't been looked at.
Well, that's great. And of course, I mean, Indian is such a famous mark, you know, especially here in North America. And the Chief in particular, you know, had such reverence when it came out with the motorcycling community.
Right. A friend of mine and my brother, he had a 42 Harley. And a friend of mine and my brother went down to a big sale down in Chatham, and they brought home a whole pickup load of parts, of Indian parts, and that sort of started it. And at first I had a Sprint, which is a 750 model, and I couldn't get parts for it anywhere. I tried and couldn't find any, and found a fellow in Toronto that wanted it, and he had a frame. So we traded, and it all amalgamated.
So that started the Chief, so you went from a Sprint to a Chief.
That's right, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a Sprint, and it was, I couldn't get parts for it, and the cylinders were all, the Indians had a fault of losing a clip on the wrist pin, and the wrist pin working out.
Oh yeah, take the cylinder out.
Take the cylinder out. Well, this Sprint had that done, and somebody brazed it.
Oh.
And it ran like a charm, though. It's amazing how it runs.
Backward mechanics.
Yes, right.
So,
and,
yeah.
Then I just started I got parts from Toronto, Orangeville, a lot of the small parts.
Well, that's good. So you found a good supply of parts now. So
that's
you're
right.
fairly comfortable that you can maintain this bike now.
Yes.
It seems now with the regeneration of old motorcycles being brought back to life, that there's a whole new parts supply system that's developing now. Some of the old new parts and some making new parts.
That's right.
New old parts.
That's right.
And so there seems to be something for everything these days.
You can just about buy everything on this.
Yeah.
There are some parts that you still can't get, but basically everything, motors. Yeah.
There's some things that we find a little bit unique on here, and I know you can explain it a bit. This speedo, is that original? That's metric. That's kilometers. Did we dealing in the metric system in 1940? What's the story?
No, it was slated to go to France in 1940 for the war effort, and before it was shipped to France, it was France was taken over by Germany, so it was left here, and from there I don't know how I got it.
So basically, this bike was originally built for the war effort. It was, I guess, the spec and everything was designed to go overseas as an army spec.
True. Right? Yes, it didn't have the full fenders or that.
That's why probably those parts that not on it today was probably different from the army version.
Very much so, yeah.
It was supposed to be back then. There's a couple of really unique things I like. I like this the shift hand. Of course, it's suicide shift, clutch shift, foot shift.
Yes.
You know, back then, and I see this Indian head, and it says Iroquois. But what's that gonna? It's an Indian head, but I don't remember ever seeing anything like that on an Indian motorcycle. What's that about?
No, my father found that. It was it's off of a draft beer that was made back years and years ago, and
so off a tap, off a draft beer dispensing tap.
That's right. Yeah.
Iroquois beer. So is that still around, Iroquois beer?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, but it fits perfectly here. It's like it was made for it.
Yeah. The real Indian head was supposed to have a head on it, like an Indian.
Oh, I originally did it.
It did, but
I see.
I thought that was a little better.
Yeah. Now the other thing, and looking around this bike, I noticed this is not the original seat, because the original chief seat had quite a big skirt around the back.
That's right.
And I don't know if it was in leather, and we had trim.
That's right. Usually a lot of strips.
But I was looking around underneath here, and I see this aluminum billet seat base, and it says Firth on it. What's that all about?
Well, back years ago, there was a company by the name of Firth Motors in Toronto, and
okay, right.
And they used to have so many pistons left over from Triumphs and other bikes that they melted them down, and it had a mold made, and they made seat pans with them.
Okay, if I remember rightly, that was Harry Firth, right?
I think so, yeah.
And he had Triumph and a bunch of other British makes.
That's right.
So he was downtown Toronto at the time. So you're telling me he collected all the old pistons from his repair shop,
Yeah.
melted them down, had a mold made for an Indian motorcycle so he could make the seats.
That's
for
right.
Indians.
Yes.
My goodness gracious, can you believe that? Well, I saw you riding in on it, and the seat looks like it works fantastically, so it must be very comfortable.
Yes, it's
if I remember rightly, Harry knew what he was about. I mean, he was a very smart guy. Some other items on here, I was looking at these beautiful bags, saddle bags, that looked like they were made for the bike.
Yes, they were.
So, were they made for the bike?
Yes, they were, yeah. The seat and the bags, my wife.
Made by?
My wife.
Yeah. By Sharon, your wife?
Oh, yes, sure.
She made the bags?
Yes, she did, yes.
What a work of art. Yeah. She did a heck of a job, right?
Thank you.
So, and the other thing we're looking at here is that you got a little guard here for the right plug. Now, that right plug, if you're sitting on the bike, it looks like it's pretty close to your right inner part of your leg.
That's right.
If you get my meaning.
Yes.
So, I mean, if it was a little wet day, you might get a nasty short up the right hand inside of your leg.
Yes.
Has that happened to you?
No, but that's why I had that on.
Oh, that's why.
A friend of mine had that happen.
It did, eh?
And it was,
I bet that made him sit up and talk.
Yeah, his day.
So the other thing that's interesting, of course, with the Indian is that we've got the advance on the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. So that's for your distributor, and on this side is your throttle.
That's right.
So opposite for most motorcycles, because it's suicide shift. We have the shifter on the right-hand side, lever here,
yep.
And the clutch is the left foot pedal, right?
Everything was opposite to Harley.
Yeah,
Everything was opposite to Harley. The shifter for Harley was on the left, and the Indian's on the right.
Now, of course, one of the things about the Indian was that the original owners of the Indians loved was the fact that they said it rode the best. They said it was the best riding bike, better than a Harley to ride. And it handled fantastic. If you look at the design here, you've got a girder front end here with if you look at the suspension on the front there, whoa, that's heavy duty. Yes. But I saw it working. It seemed to work quite well.
It does. It works fairly well.
Yeah.
And Indian were the only ones that had a rear shock too, which is right there. It gave you a 2-inch travel, whereas Harley were basically all hardtails back then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so this was actually a luxurious bike built in the US at the time.
That's right.
And that's why actually this was the leading motorcycle at the time.
At the time, yes.
The Indian was the bike to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes, it was.
Beyond any other bike at the time. Yeah.
At the time, it was ahead of its time.
So that's very neat. And so what do you think, George? Do you think we could get this out on the road and we can see it chugging down the road a bit?
Sure.
Are you up for that?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Fantastic.